All right, so are you ready to dive in? Today we're tackling a guy who's either a total visionary or a master manipulator, Jason Kilar.
Yeah, this is a good one.
He's the name behind giants like Hulu, and he made some really bold moves at WarnerMedia, and it's left a lot of people scratching their heads.
Is he really changing the world or just playing the game to come out on top?
Right, exactly. That's the million-dollar question. Is he grifter or gifted?
And I think what's so fascinating about Kilar is that his career really mirrors that just utter chaos and transformation that's happened in the entertainment industry in like the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
You think about the rise of streaming, like all the power shifts in Hollywood, like he's been in the middle of it all.
He has. And that's why we've got a mountain of articles here.
Yeah.
Profiles, even some like little glimpses into his personal website.
Ooh, personal website insights. Always good.
Yeah, and we're going to use all of that to see if his actions actually match his ambitions. Did he build empires or did he like burn them down just for personal gain?
Ooh, that's a good question. Because I think the key here is to look beyond just the headlines, right?
Right.
And really analyze, like, what decisions did he make?
Yeah.
Did he anticipate those industry trends, or was he just capitalizing on them?
Right.
Was he actually driven by some big vision for the future of entertainment, or was it all about just disruption for its own sake?
Right. And I think a good place to start with that is back in his early days at Amazon in the late 90s.
Oh, yeah. Amazon in the 90s, that was like the wild west of e-commerce.
Exactly. A period of explosive growth for the company. And he wasn't just there.
He wasn't just a bystander.
He was deeply involved in shaping some of Amazon's most successful ventures.
Yeah, and we're not talking about just any ventures. We're talking about ones that redefined how we shop and how we consume entertainment. I mean, this is the guy who had a hand in the original designs for Amazon Prime.
Whoa.
And fulfillment by Amazon. Like, these weren't just features. They were whole paradigm shifts.
Yeah, so right away we see those seeds of disruption being sown. But what's really interesting is how his work on Amazon Prime, particularly those early iterations, directly foreshadowed his later success with Hulu.
Totally. Yeah, because at Amazon, he got to see firsthand the power of subscription models and creating this really seamless customer experience. Like, he understood that convenience and value, those were key to capturing like a really loyal audience.
Right.
Like, this wasn't just about selling products. This was about building a whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
So he brings all that understanding to Hulu,
Right.
co-founds the company in 2007.
Which was a time when streaming TV shows online, that was still a pretty novel idea. It was a gamble.
Oh, it was a gamble for sure. But it was a calculated gamble. Like, he used all of that experience from Amazon. He knew entertainment was shifting online.
Yeah.
And he saw this opportunity to create a platform that could actually rival, like, traditional television.
He saw the future.
He did, yeah. And he wasn't just throwing spaghetti at the wall. He had a plan. He had a vision.
Well, he had a document.
He did. It was called What Defines Hulu.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just some boring business plan. This was a cultural manifesto.
Yeah, it's actually a fascinating document.
It is, yeah.
He outlines a set of principles that emphasize user experience, content curation, a strong brand identity. He really understood that in the digital world, it wasn't enough to just offer content. You had to create an experience that people would love.
100%.
So tell me a little bit more about those principles. What were the key elements of what defines Hulu that really set it apart from some of those other early streaming services?
Well, one of the biggest ones was ease of use. He believed that the interface, the way you interacted with it, had to be intuitive, it had to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Remember, this is back when navigating online video platforms could be like super clunky, really frustrating.
Yeah.
But Hulu, with him at the helm, they prioritized that streamlined, user-friendly design.
Which makes sense, because in those early days of streaming, winning over viewers meant making it as easy as possible for them to find and watch what they wanted.
Yeah.
But what about the content itself?
Yeah, content is king.
What defines Hulu? Address that.
Well, he was all about curating this high-quality library of content, and they focused on current seasons of popular shows, a diverse selection of movies.
Okay.
And this was different from, say, what Netflix was doing at the time, which was relying a lot on back catalogs and licensed content.
Oh, so Hulu was all about being the place to go to for what was hot and happening on TV.
Yeah.
But if they were so focused on current seasons, wouldn't that limit their library?
Yeah, that's a good point.
How did they compete with the sheer volume of content offered by other services?
Well, that's where that third principle comes in, building a strong brand identity.
Okay.
He knew that Hulu needed to stand for something in the minds of consumers.
Yeah.
So he positioned Hulu as like the anti-cable option.
I like that.
Yeah, a service that offered a more curated, more user-friendly experience than those traditional cable providers.
So it wasn't just about the content, it was about the whole package.
Totally.
Like Hulu was selling an experience, a lifestyle, a way to break free from the shackles of cable.
Exactly. And it worked.
Yeah,
Under his leadership, Hulu grew really rapidly, exceeded $1 billion in revenue by its 6th year.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a remarkable achievement for a company that was going up against these giants like Netflix and cable providers.
I mean, it really solidified his reputation as like a visionary leader, someone who could anticipate those industry trends, build successful businesses in this like crazy, rapidly changing market.
He was a star.
He was.
But Kilar's story doesn't end there. He leaves Hulu in 2013 to launch Vessel, a subscription video service that aimed to disrupt the traditional model of content distribution. Was this a sign of his restless ambition, or was he just chasing the next big thing?
Ooh, that's the question, isn't it? And it's the one that we're going to explore in part 2 of this deep dive.
All right, so stay tuned because things are about to get really interesting. We're going to unpack the successes and failures of Vessel, and then we'll delve into his even more controversial time at WarnerMedia.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about the fallout from that decision to release all the Warner Brothers films on HBO Max and in theaters at the same time. And we're going to analyze the reasons behind the very spectacular collapse of CNN Plus A.
Buckle up, everybody, because we are going to continue our quest to answer the question, grifter or gifted?
Welcome back to our deep dive into the career of Jason Kilar.
Okay, so last time we left off with Kilar leaving Hulu to start this new venture called Vessel.
Right.
And he really wants to shake things up in the entertainment industry.
He does.
So he goes for it, and he secures like a massive $130 million in funding.
Whoa.
Including backing from Jeff Bezos himself.
That is serious money and serious belief in his vision.
Right, like that's a huge vote of confidence. So what was the big idea behind Vessel?
Well, the idea was really interesting. They wanted to offer early access to content from those really popular creators.
Okay.
So it was kind of like a VIP experience for those dedicated fans.
Okay.
Get it before everybody else.
I can see the appeal, especially in those early days of like YouTube and online video where discoverability was a real challenge. But was it a genuine attempt to empower creators and build a better platform? Or was Kilar just trying to like exploit a gap in the market for quick profits?
Right. And that's where things get a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Vessel ultimately didn't really gain traction. And they ended up selling it to Verizon in 2016.
Okay.
And then Verizon just absorbed the technology into their own struggling service, Go90.
So it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, it just kind of vanished.
So it's a story that definitely raises questions about Kilar's judgment, right?
It does.
About his motives. Was this a truly innovative idea that was just like ahead of its time? Or was it just a flawed concept from the get-go?
Maybe it was just too early.
Yeah. Some critics argue that he underestimated the loyalty that viewers had to these established platforms like YouTube.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like trying to pull audiences away from something that's free and readily available, even with the lure of exclusive content. That's a tough sell.
That's a really tough sell.
Right.
Yeah. And you also have to think about the creators. Vessel's whole model really depended on getting those big creators to sign up.
Oh, yeah.
And those creators, they already had huge followings on other platforms.
Right.
So convincing them to put Vessel first with a paywall and more limited reach, that was a gamble.
Yeah, so Vessel's failure could be seen as this clash between Kilar's, disruptive ambition and just like the realities of how audiences behave, creator loyalty. It's like even the most brilliant ideas can fail if they don't connect with what the market actually wants.
Yeah, if they don't actually meet the needs of the people who are using the platform.
Right. And it's interesting because it's a pattern that we see kind of repeating in his later career,
Right.
especially during his time as CEO of WarnerMedia.
Yeah, that was a wild ride.
Yeah. That's where his reputation as a disruptor, for better or for worse, really takes center stage.
Yeah, he steps into this role in 2020.
Yeah.
Like right as the pandemic is hitting.
Yeah.
The industry's in chaos.
Talk about trial by fire.
Theaters are closed, productions are shut down, streaming's taking over.
Yeah, but he doesn't shy away from the challenge.
No, he does not.
He makes this really bold move that sends shockwaves through Hollywood.
He does the day and date release strategy,
Right.
releasing all the Warner Brothers films in theaters and on HBO Max at the same time.
On the same day.
Yeah, huge decision.
It was a total departure from that traditional model where films had this, like, theatrical window of exclusivity.
So what were the arguments for and against this day-and-date strategy?
Okay, well, on one hand, people were saying that it was a necessary response to the pandemic, give audiences access to these new releases when theaters were closed.
Right. Plus, it really boosted subscriptions for HBO Max, like helped establish it as a major player.
Right. From a purely business perspective, that's hard to argue with.
Yeah, hard to argue with those numbers. But then you've got the filmmakers.
Yeah.
A lot of them felt betrayed.
Yeah.
They felt like he made this decision without even talking to them.
Yeah.
Totally disregarded what it would mean for their work.
So how did they think it would impact their work?
They argued that releasing films simultaneously on streaming would devalue that theatrical experience.
Oh, okay.
And it could also potentially hurt their box office numbers.
Right, because a film's theatrical run isn't just about ticket sales. It's about creating that buzz, that shared cultural experience.
Exactly. And some of those big-name directors, especially the ones who had worked with Warner Brothers for years, they really spoke out against this.
Like who?
Christopher Nolan.
Oh, yeah.
Huge advocate for the theatrical experience. He was very critical.
It's interesting because here's Kilar, this disruptor, clashing with the very people he needs to make the industry successful.
Yeah, it's this constant tension in his career. Is he this visionary with a better way forward, or is he just this ruthless pragmatist who will sacrifice anything for market dominance?
Right. And this all becomes even more relevant when we look at the rise and fall of CNN Plus Bull.
Oh, CNN Plus. Talk about a roller coaster.
It launched with so much hype, and then it was shut down in like a month.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Was it a brilliant idea that was just handled poorly, or was it doomed from the very beginning?
And what role did Kilar play in its demise?
Well, that's where we're going to pick up in part 3. We're going to dissect one of the biggest flops in media history. And we'll explore the fallout from his decision to launch what a lot of people saw as this doomed vanity project.
All right, so we're back, and it's time to answer the big question. Grifter or gifted?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
You've seen his wins, his losses.
The bold move.
The not-so-bold moves. But what can we actually learn from his career, from all of this, right? From the triumphs and the stumbles. And what does his story tell us about, disruption and the challenges of navigating a rapidly changing industry?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Well, I think one of the key takeaways here is that disruption can be really great,
Right.
but it can also be a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I mean, it can lead to a lot of innovation and progress.
For sure.
But it can also create chaos.
It can, yeah. And I think Kilar kind of embodies that.
He does.
He's clearly a brilliant strategist.
Right.
He can spot those opportunities that other people just don't see.
But he's not afraid to break things.
He's not, no.
Even if it means alienating people he needs.
Yeah.
And potentially damaging the industry he's trying to change.
And I think the CNN Plus thing is a perfect example of that.
Yeah?
Launching a subscription news streaming service in a market that's already so crowded.
Right.
And at a time when everyone was already feeling subscription fatigue.
Yeah.
That was a really risky move.
It was a really risky move.
Yeah. Like, was there even an audience for that?
Right. It really does seem like he was just trying to repeat what he did with HBO Max.
Right. Just trying to copy that playbook without thinking about the differences.
And the fact that it was shut down so quickly, right? Like just weeks after that WarnerMedia Discovery merger.
Like they knew right away it was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
It was a costly mistake.
Yeah, financially and to his reputation.
Right. And it really makes you question his judgment. Like, can he actually look at the market and see what's going to work?
Right.
It just highlights that tension between those short-term wins and actually building something that lasts.
Yeah, that desire to be disruptive, to be the first one to do something. It can make you blind to the downside.
Yeah, totally blind.
But even with that CNN Plus flop, I think it's important to acknowledge what he did achieve.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, he was instrumental in the growth of HBO Max.
Absolutely.
Which has become a huge player.
It has.
And he was really pushing for diversity and inclusion at WarnerMedia.
He did.
So it's complicated.
It's a really complicated legacy.
He's got the bold vision. He's got the calculated risks. He's had some undeniable wins.
Yeah.
But also some pretty big missteps.
And he definitely didn't always make friends along the way.
So I guess that brings us back to the original question. Grifter or gifted?
Right. Was he a visionary who was just misunderstood?
Or was he more interested in just self-promotion and disruption for its own sake?
I don't think there's an easy answer. He's a product of his time.
He is.
A leader who really shows just how complicated the digital age is.
Right. He's disruptive, he's innovative, he takes risks.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yeah, he's a bull in a china shop.
He is. But I think the biggest lesson here is that even brilliant people can mess up.
Right.
And that chasing disruption without a real purpose, without thinking about the consequences,
Right.
that can lead to disaster just as easily as it can lead to success.
And that's a lesson that I think is more relevant than ever, especially as the entertainment industry keeps changing so fast. Well, there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into Jason Kilar, a story of ambition, innovation, and a legacy that's pretty hard to define.
Yeah, a real mixed bag.
We'll let you decide, grifter or gifted.
Let us know what you think in the comments.
And join us next time as we unpack the life of another polarizing figure.
We'll see you then.
Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep those deep dives going.